This year, I turned 65 and go by the name Aurora Morgan. I live with my retired husband, a kind and compassionate man who has been my partner through many years of love and support. Together, we have 2 children, Henry and Caleb, both of whom are happily married. Lately, our home has begun to show its age, and we've started considering renovations. We figured it would make sense to temporarily stay with our eldest son, Henry, and his wife, Hannah, during the process. When I reached out to Henry to discuss this idea, he hesitated. He wasn't enthusiastic about the prospect of us living with him and his wife. Although we persisted in suggesting the renovation include a room for us, Henry continued to express discomfort. Hannah was even more opposed, and after considering their feelings, we eventually decided it would be better not to push the idea. After this conversation, I shared our experience with my husband. He remained hopeful and suggested we move ahead with renovating our own home to create a more accessible and comfortable environment for our later years. Several months later, our house was transformed to meet our needs, becoming a space where we could age with ease. Eventually, we invited both of our sons and their wives to gather at our newly renovated home. Skylar, Caleb's thoughtful wife, arrived first, expressing her admiration for our cooking and offering to help in the kitchen. However, when Henry and Hannah arrived, their attitude was less than welcoming. They sat on the couch, acting as if they were the hosts, and demanded tea without offering any kindness. Despite their lack of respect, we did our best to keep things civil. During the meal, Henry, looking irritated, finally raised the subject we had all gathered to discuss. He dropped the shocking news of a recent lung cancer diagnosis. Caleb and Skylar were visibly stunned, while Henry and Hannah remained unmoved. Caleb, his voice shaking with concern, asked about the prognosis. The response was calm but devastating, leaving us all to process the gravity of the situation. In the weeks that followed, I learned that cancer had spread throughout my body, and the doctors informed me with heavy hearts that I had only 6 months to live. Skylar, holding back tears, seemed heartbroken, while I bit my lip to stay composed. Henry, detached, commented on my aging, as though it were happening to someone else. Hannah, with no empathy, casually remarked, "You can't fight aging, can you? My uncle passed away from stomach cancer." Her indifferent words stung deeply, and I couldn't stay silent, urging them to stop. Skylar and Caleb tried to calm me, promising they would be there for me during my final days. Henry and Hannah, however, were preoccupied with their phones, seemingly unaffected by the situation. My husband, maintaining his calm, asked our children to take care of me in the coming months. Caleb and Skylar assured us they would, but Henry and Hannah barely acknowledged the request. After the meal, I walked outside to say goodbye to Caleb and Skylar. Henry and Hannah rushed off without a word. Despite everything, Caleb encouraged me to stay strong, reassuring me of their ongoing support. The following week, I chose palliative care over surgery and chemotherapy, leading to my admission to a hospice. Caleb and Skylar faithfully accompanied me every day, providing transport and nursing care. Sadly, Henry and Hannah never visited. Even as my condition worsened over the next 5 months, they remained absent. When I asked them to visit, they finally showed up, but their dissatisfaction was clear. During their short visit, Henry showed no empathy and barely interacted with me. Less than 10 minutes later, they left abruptly, citing work commitments. After their departure, I noticed that Hannah had left her jacket behind. As I tried to return it, I overheard a conversation in the hallway. Hannah, with cold indifference, asked Henry about the inheritance, while Henry seemed eager at the thought of profiting from the house renovations. Their focus was not on my illness but on what they could gain. I couldn't bear to hear any more and retreated to my room. 2 weeks later, my husband unexpectedly passed away, leaving behind a family consumed by greed and apathy. I grieved his loss deeply, but I found comfort in Caleb and Skylar, who stood by me through it all. With their help, I managed to take charge of the funeral arrangements and lead the service. After the funeral, with only close family present, Henry couldn't hold back any longer. He brought up the issue of the inheritance, eager to discuss it. Caleb immediately reprimanded him, but Henry brushed him off, insisting on addressing it right away. Tired, I sighed and suggested we wait until the following week to talk. Henry and Hannah mocked the idea but left shortly after. The next week, both couples gathered at our home to settle the inheritance matter. I calmly announced that the inheritance amounted to $220,000. Henry seemed taken aback, and despite my clear explanation, he questioned the figure. I handed him a large envelope with all the supporting documents, urging him to review them. The expressions on Henry and Hannah's faces shifted as they looked over the paperwork, confirming the inheritance was indeed $220,000. Henry voiced his dissatisfaction, claiming it was too little. Caleb, not backing down, suggested they should also receive the house. I explained calmly that the lack of available funds was likely due to the extensive renovations our father had made to the house, ensuring it was comfortable for our later years. I made it clear that I intended to keep the house and care for it as long as I could, stressing that it was unfair for Henry to expect to profit solely from it. Henry seemed agitated, as though he was about to challenge me, but Caleb intervened and held him back. Caleb reminded Henry of our father's dedication to me until his final days. Despite my willingness to divide the inheritance fairly, Henry and his wife insisted that if Caleb and Skylar didn't want their share, they should simply hand it over to them. Caleb and Skylar, however, made it clear that they were fine with relinquishing their portion, asking only for recognition of their support. Once again, Henry and his wife pushed the issue, demanding that I hand over their share. I firmly refused, explaining that it wasn't going to happen. They showed no sympathy for my fixed income or challenges, focusing only on their desire to get the money. Caleb, growing frustrated, lashed out, calling them selfish and reminding them to respect their elders. Despite Caleb's rebuke, Henry and Hannah remained unmoved, even suggesting that older people should only be involved in weddings and funerals. Their harsh words left a bitter sting, and I felt my fists tighten with emotion as I absorbed the cruel remarks. It seemed like they wished my husband were still alive only for the sake of the inheritance. To make matters worse, they referred to me as a burden. I couldn't understand where I had gone wrong in raising them. Tears welled up, but I fought to hold them back as I addressed Henry and the others calmly. "I've heard everything you've said. Let's take a break for now," I said, keeping my composure. For a moment, Henry and his wife appeared surprised, but their expressions quickly turned smug. "Oh, that's perfect. We won't have to deal with the old lady anymore. Lucky us," they sneered, trying to make their exit. As they left, they snidely told Caleb and Skylar that it was now their responsibility to care for me. Caleb and Skylar rushed to my side, offering reassurance and support. Some months later, I was at home relaxing when, to my surprise, Henry and Hannah showed up, accompanied by Caleb. I couldn't understand why they had come back after everything that had transpired. They demanded to be let in, shouting at the door. Caleb apologized, and I reluctantly opened the door. Once inside, Henry and his wife immediately began accusing me of giving away the house without considering them. I calmly explained that Caleb had expressed his desire to keep the house, to preserve the memories of our father. They seemed stunned, so I clarified that Caleb and Skylar had been incredibly supportive. Henry, still confused, pressed for more details. I glanced at his wife, who seemed on the verge of erupting, and explained that I had chosen to give the house to Caleb because of their dedication and help. I smiled warmly at Caleb and Skylar, thanking them for everything. Henry and his wife, dissatisfied, argued that I had promised to take care of the house by myself. I remained calm and responded, explaining my reasoning for the decision. "I had considered giving it to you if you could respect both your father's wishes and mine. Besides, I've started receiving rental income," I said. This caught Henry off guard, so I continued. "Do you remember last year when our father passed away? Caleb attended the funeral, but you claimed you couldn't come because you were too far away. Well, your grandfather owned several properties, and I finally received my inheritance. I've started earning rental income." They were stunned. "No one told us about this," they said. I responded calmly. "I've been earning about $2 million every year. It's easy to offer my son and his wife a place to live." Henry and his wife suddenly stood up, suggesting that if this was the case, they should be entitled to some of it too. "Why should I give anything to someone who called me a parasite?" I said firmly. "You told me not to interfere with your life, right? So don't come to me now. Don't expect to leech off me after calling me a parasite." Henry and Hannah were left speechless as I pointed toward the door. Isn't it clear that this conversation is over? Please leave, I said. Henry pleaded, but I remained firm, refusing to entertain further discussion. Please listen to me, he said, grabbing my arm. I gave him a cold stare, making it clear that he had no right to call me Mom. Could you help us with a house or some money? We have a problem, Hannah cried out. I looked at both of them and asked, what kind of trouble are you in? Henry reluctantly admitted that they had lived beyond their means, expecting inheritance money, and had gotten into debt. I jerked my arm away, scolding him. Unbelievable. I never thought you'd make such a foolish decision. You reap what you sow, so deal with the consequences. Mom, that's too harsh, he replied. I addressed their frustrated faces, saying, from now on, I'll start transferring assets to Caleb through ongoing contributions. I'm not going to give you a penny because I've severed all ties with you. Don't come near me again. Caleb stood by my side, affirming my decision and urging them to leave. Henry and Hannah left, clearly defeated. Caleb gently massaged my back as I took a deep breath. It wasn't long before Henry and his wife were in financial trouble, and they were reportedly bankrupt. Their future seemed uncertain, marked by constant arguments at home. As for me, I transferred the house to Caleb and moved into an assisted living facility nearby. Caleb and Skylar visit regularly, and recently, I became a grandmother. I'm looking forward to living each day with peace, building a strong relationship with my second true family. That's my plan for the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay amazed.